Hey, welcome to episode 40 of the Recharge Podcast. Laura and Mitchell here.
Hey, how are you?
It's tax day last week. That was a lot of, I'm told not to swear, so bleeping fun to mail that in. But with that in mind, I thought we'd talk about why everybody needs to have a side hustle.
I think that's a great idea.
So statistics currently in 2019 show that the average American makes about $62,500, which is up from last year and up from last quarter actually. But if you wipe out the taxes, which is about $13,000, that leaves about $48,000 left, which sounds good. It's about $4,000 a month, but the current reality with the healthcare as it is, what that costs a month, even if you've got a partially sponsored plan, that's nearly, for our family, that's $1,000 when I was employed, which I hadn't been for a long time.
Right.
Car insurance, and that
Groceries.
and teenagers and sports, and the situation. So the end result is that there's very little left over for retirement or anything else, and so that's why I think it's important to consider a side hustle. And if you don't have a side hustle, you don't have a side gig, that it's really critical that you dip your toe into those waters.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's, you said that wages went up, but maybe just a little bit. They haven't really gone up a lot.
0.05%, which if you take the cost of inflation and everything else, you're down, essentially.
Right. So wages are kind of stagnant, but inflation is going up, and some of those big ticket items that we can't get away from, healthcare, education, those just continue to go up exponentially.
Well, people think that they rely on the government. I'm not going to turn this into a political podcast because I don't like politics, but in the predictability of healthcare and whether or not it's going to be there for you or whether you're going to have something that's affordable, it's an unknown. And so just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best is not really a strategy. Hope is never a strategy.
Right. Well, and even if you do have coverage, healthcare coverage, as we've found out with 2 appendicitis bouts in our family in the last 6 months, the co-pays are still quite significant.
Anesthesia charges, a kid who skis and mountain bikes and has blown out his knee, and then have appendicitis, and all those things that are unpredictable. And but anyways.
Yep. So the other point of this is having a single point of failure is bad, and what that means is anytime you have one thing that you're relying on, one income, one job, anything that happens to that, whether it's your health or a disruption in that job, all of a sudden you don't have that income. And that can be pretty scary for people. A lot of people don't have, what are you supposed to have, 6 months savings?
Like an emergency fund, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have that.
Well, I saw that right away coming out of residency when I got my first job in the hospital. We took over a group, and there were several physicians that were good, but they were not board certified, and so they were let go. And so they'd been there for several years, and staff liked them, but they suddenly found themselves what they thought was a stable job, now jobless in an urban market that was very desirable and very challenging to find a job. And so I felt bad for those guys. But like you mentioned, the single point of failure is critical. And I'm not saying that this is all about money. Everybody's got their own definition of success, but the average millionaire has something like 7 flows of income. And so that's obviously, you've got 7 points of failure. I mean, not everyone's going to be your primary source, but to have those little extra streams trickling in certainly takes some of the pressure off.
Exactly. And the last thing that I think is really pretty cool is it's having a side hustle is an awesome education. It's like a real world MBA. And so I think that part of staying active as we get older is keeping our brain healthy, and thinking and learning new things is definitely a plus.
Use it or lose it, definitely. So I've got many side hustles going on, but what about you?
I don't
even know. Tell me, what's your side hustle story? Why?
Well, I was single point of failure. I had a general dental practice, and I was the owner, and that was my primary and only source of income. And then you decided to have major heart surgery, and I needed to take a few weeks off, and that was a real strain. I needed to be there with you, wanted to be there with you, but my source of income then completely stopped.
Well, also the mental stress leading up to that, the unknown of whether I was going to be alive or dead, and being away from your office. You don't get paid when you're not there.
No.
If that's your single point of failure, I don't want to say you failed, but you
The link was broken.
the link was broken and the income went down to almost zero on your main gig, so
Right.
to speak.
And then not only that, but being away while you were in surgery, coming back, I needed to jump right in where I really wanted to just be home helping you recover, but I needed to jump right back into work, and that was a stressful time.
It was like adult daycare, and your sister, which was, I love her. Thank God she was here to help
thank
us,
God.
but still a little awkward. I was pretty beat up and lost about 30 pounds, and having somebody knock on the door when you're in the shower saying, "Do you need help? Should I come in?" Yeah, it's just a little stressful as a 45-year-old alpha male kind of guy.
Right.
So-
And it was hard to be at work, knowing that you were at home and possibly needing me. So I know that you did have a few trips to the ER, and I had to leave work to meet you at the ER.
Yeah, that's true. I guess, I mean, I don't want to rehash the past. I mean, where we're at right now is significantly better, in part because of the side hustle, allowed some pressure and some traction to be taken off. We could get off the treadmill and sort of do what we wanted to do based on how you felt that day. You weren't always pressured to have to go in somewhere and do something. So, yeah, definitely. My side hustle started, I got the dream job. I thought this is the final job for me, and, made a bunch of financial decisions based on that. And short while after, we were taken over by a large corporation. And so the dream job of 60 physicians in a private group suddenly became, I call it the Walmart of medicine. Benefits were wiped out. Support structure was taken away. I mean, it just became an untenable job. And I've shared this before in other interviews, but sort of reached a breaking point and just quit. My boss was in my office one day and he said, "How's it going?" And just was there to just BS. And I just told him, I'm done, I'm quitting. And he just smirked because he knew he'd hung up a stethoscope, a few years ago and was doing admin. And, I started piecing it together. Like you mentioned, the real world MBA, I had to figure it out on my own, and it was challenging, stressful, but it was a hell of a lot of fun, and it gave me a skill set that I continue to use this day. I mean, I'm 8-9 years into this process right now, and it gives so many opportunities and exposures and chance to meet new people and do new projects. I mean, I'm getting new projects and different things that I can participate in on almost a weekly basis. So it's now come down to saying no more than, worrying about what I'm going to do next.
Yeah. And, I know that now having some time at home, we're preparing for our first child's high school graduation, and I'm going through pictures, baby pictures, grade school pictures, that type of thing. And I hope not to get emotional when I say this, but I get teary-eyed because I think of the lost time. And I think about how if I would have started a side hustle earlier, I might have had more time freedom and been able to be home with them a little more when they were young and precious. And you don't get that time back.
No, and that brings up a thought about the why. People continually ask us both why, or they say they don't understand, and it's really not for them to understand. It's really your journey and it's your life. And so many people are stuck in the status quo, and they just feel like everybody that they're surrounded by has the same mindset and mentality. And yes, people have dreams and hopes, but without any action, that's all that will ever be, is a dream and a hope. And I think it's just a different mindset. And so I think we both got a lot of flack and a lot of resistance. And people looked at you, and you walked away from a very successful practice that you built from the ground up. But the reality of it is, since you've done that, you've been much happier, a whole lot less stress, a whole lot more present. Mm-hmm. And surprisingly, our income has substantially increased despite the fact that you walked away from a medical career.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep. And I think I'm healthier for it too.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I think one of the things that people are probably who are listening to this are going to struggle with maybe a little bit is how to get started. I mean, what are your thoughts? You're just a couple years into this.
Gosh, I mean, Google side hustle, and you should be able to come up with a ton of ideas. Talk to people around you. There's a lot of people that are doing this. They're fitting it into the nooks and crannies of their life. Now, just because I walked away from a practice doesn't mean you have to walk away from your job. I know a lot of people that continue on with their job, even love their job, but fit a side hustle into the nooks and crannies of their day for that extra source of income, for the trip fund, for the college education fund, for the home improvement fund. And so I think, keep your mind open, keep your ears open, and start talking to people. And certainly you should be able to find some things.
Plenty of people still, they like their day job, they like what they do, and they're not necessarily looking to walk away. But I think the reality of the economic situation is that an extra $500 a month would be transforming in a lot of situations, particularly if you have kids or a sick parent or something else that does sort of pop up on the radar. I've got a friend that has a very successful IT career and hurt himself in CrossFit and was kind of frustrated that he couldn't find a brace that really fit properly.
That's a good story.
Yeah, designed his own brace, started researching Alibaba and how to sell on Amazon. And now he's generating $15,000 to $20,000 a month as his side hustle income. And with the power of the internet, leveraging technology and networking, connecting yourself with people, he works on his business about an hour a week. And he still has his day job, which he loves his colleagues, and he likes the technology world. So I mean, it's the best of both worlds, essentially. And he's free. I mean, if he gets disrupted, which the way the world's working right now, we're all going to get disrupted in healthcare or education or transportation. I mean, the list of things that are going to be disrupted with technology and AI is endless. And, I have some friends, as you do, that refuse to believe that, but I don't think that that's necessarily the safe, proper mindset. I think, being prepared for the future, not fearing or worrying about it, but being prepared for what is going to transform and change relatively fast in an exponential manner is critical.
Right. And I think that the more we're open to this, and even our youngsters, our kids entering college, this is certainly something that could benefit them, having a side hustle during college, having extra source of income, things that you can fit into your life. Like I said, in the nooks and crannies, not necessarily during a busy test-taking time, but maybe during kind of an off time, and not have to have a hamburger flipping job.
Right. I mean, there's a person on your team who's a college, so she's probably going to be a senior now, and she is earning more per month than a lot of people earn per year. And I don't say that to try to impress you, it's to impress upon you that there is a different reality out there for those that are willing to dip their toe and start working their side hustle. And it may or may not turn into a full-time gig, but it certainly is going to give her the freedom to do whatever the hell she wants.
Yes.
I mean, student loans are not an issue. No. She wants to buy a place. None of those things are an issue or consideration. It really opens up the world for her to, she could do pro bono freelance work. I mean, it's just really endless what is possible based on how her side hustle has really just blown up. It just still blows my mind, but it's very cool. So. Yep. One of the resources I wanted to throw out there is there's a podcast called The Side Hustle School, which is hosted by Chris Guillebeau, who is the creator of the World Domination Summit, nothing to do with guns or weapons. I went to that, I think in 2014, and really opened my eyes connecting with entrepreneurs from around the world who are not only looking to make an economic mark and give themselves freedom, but they're making a mark on the world and having impact. And, part of the side hustle thing is that extra income can be used for making an impact, helping your favorite charity, helping your local communities, sponsoring a sports team that maybe needs a little bump, a little boost, and that certainly feels good. But certainly it's fun, It's really fun to see, what your impact does and how it really improves and can help shape and transform other people's lives.
Right. So. That's an example. One of my favorite mentors, Ray Higdon, early on in his career, was able to support his son's track team on a trip that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to afford. And so that was pretty cool, and obviously pretty bonding with him and his son. Yeah,
that's cool. So I know you probably have some questions as we kind of just barely scratch the surface of this topic. I've been at this for nearly a decade, and you've got a couple years under your belt. So if you have some questions about some tools or tactics or resources or how to get started, or just an introductory book on the topic, any of those things, just drop either of us a message. You can find us on social media. It's pretty easy to do so. And I'm excited. We just are in the baby stages of Patreon. Patreon is just a little platform that helps keep the show alive, and I'll share more about that in the episodes to come.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Appreciate being here, and hope that brought you value today.
Have a fantastic week, and start hustling.
Yes. Cheers.